Hello everybody, how's it going? So welcome to another One Piece review. This time we're covering Manga chapter 1111. Oda confirms he will be taking a break, a 3-week break, following this chapter. He also leaves us on a gigantic cliffhanger, literally. There's also a great deal of One Piece news coming out this week, not just from the chapter, but Oda does give us a message, and the main takeaway I got from this message is pretty much obviously he's affected like through the passing of Akira Toriyama, like we all are, but more specifically because if you look at Oda and Kishimoto's statement, how influential Toriyama was not only in the careers of Oda and Kishimoto, but also in their life. So yeah, so this is a big loss. And like I said, the main takeaway I got from this statement by Oda is the fact that he feels he needs to take a step back after this situation. Like, he may have been thinking that anyway, but this really pushed him to like, okay, I need to take a break, reevaluate everything, not just his health, but also everything else in his life, which I think is the most important aspect here. Like, yeah, his health issues have been well documented, but we really don't know what's going through his mind with each chapter that comes out. We really don't, and that's something I feel like we overlook. Like, you don't know what go through the minds of these authors that publish manga, sometimes on a weekly basis. So another is like, oh, there's plenty of content to like check out. So even if he's taking a 3-week break, which he deserves, by the way, now he also makes it a point to highlight the fact there's certain info on certain characters, and if you look on Oda's message, you can clearly see who those characters are. Robin and Soul, the Gorosei, and I believe Dorian Bragi are also on there. So if we're having questions about that, Oda is like writing the bio, the info about these characters and the relationship on the Shonen Jump app. I believe it's going to be in Japanese though, so I'm pretty sure that'll be translated, but yeah, but it's going to be free, so that's something else to keep in mind. So there's going to be bio info to dissect when it comes to like certain characters coming from Egghead Island. Another thing is, like I said, he says there's no shortage of One Piece content, specifically on Netflix. We got live action season 1. Now season 2 has been announced, and the rumor is I don't know how true this is, but it's been slated for 2025. If that is the case, just like with the whole situation involving Oda feel like he needs to take a break, I have no issue with this decision at all, because I feel like it will be so much easier for them to capitalize on the popularity after season 1 to like, okay, we need to spoon feed season 2 ASAP to catch why the iron's hot. And like, no, that's not why season 1 was so well received. It's because you literally allowed Oda to help you fill in the fine points and take your time with this. That's why it turned out as good as it did, and add a little extra detail. So season 2, I'm glad they're taking the time to make sure it's just as successful, if not better, than season 1, because it's only going to help Oda and One Piece in the long run. With the popularity exploding now, yeah, who knows with a year or two what season 2 will do. We also have the One Piece remake anime coming to Netflix, as well as Egghead Island being streamed on Netflix. That's a first. Now, I believe it's recently come out that One Piece film Red will be added to Netflix, which I can't say I'm shocked. And I also made the prediction that possibly when the dub finalizes Wano, that will get added to Netflix as well. I would not be shocked. So obviously with this 3-week break, it kind of opens up the door on my schedule, so maybe I can check out the one-shot monsters that Oda wrote up that got animated and added to Netflix. So speaking of the anime, and before I dive into this chapter, because there's a lot to dissect, but I do want to give my brief thoughts on the recent few episodes in the anime, and from a story standpoint, they've really knocked it out of the park. Like, obviously, there's been a few action sequences here and there, like we got Zeraphim Shark or Zeraphim Jinbei against the Straw Hats. That was well executed. Like the introduction of Shaka and the grey area of whether or not like the Vegapunk clones are pretty much are they enemies or are they allies? So that was kind of handled really good in the beginning stages when it came to the manga. So the anime really followed suit with that. But more importantly, the way they've handled Robin in these past 3 episodes. Episode 1095, obviously, the scene where she goes, when she brings out gigantic fleur to like try and launch an attack against Sarah from Jinbei. But my god, from a character standpoint, the way they've handled her character in the past 2 episodes, like chapter 1066 was, like, in my opinion, the best chapter of the year when that came out. They obviously divided that up and split it up into 2 episodes, which they did that with they divided Black Maria versus Nico Robin into 3 episodes, which I didn't have a problem with, especially with the execution, how well that was handled. Same thing here, only this time it wasn't really focusing on action. This arc, even though what we got in this chapter, this arc what really stands out is the emotion coming from this arc, especially when it comes from Bonnie. We saw that in episode 1092, and the voice acting and how they killed it. Like, it's the same thing here, only this time with the difference of obviously Bonnie yelling, "Don't hurt my father," and obviously the reason being, we know the reason if you read the manga. It's like why she reacts the way she does. It's perfectly understandable. With Robin, it's a lot more reserved, and she doesn't yell out. Like, the last time she really yelled out was back at Eni's lobby, which I feel like that could be where they're going with, especially with Robin hearing that Sol is alive. And the way the art and the animation with these past few episodes has been on point, especially when it comes to like Robin tearing up, and the voice acting as well. Like I said, it's not yelling, but you can distinctly hear it, like with the whimpering, if you pay attention. And I think that's so important. It adds so much layers to this situation, and it kind of separates itself from the moment we got with Bonnie in episode 1092. Nobody was expecting that to be as impactful as it was from an emotional standpoint, because we know there's a much more emotion coming. So, but that was a good start for. Speaking of which, the way they've handled Bonnie from a character standpoint, not only in the manga but also in the anime now, with Vegapunk being introduced, with Bonnie seeing Vegapunk, telling him, "You better turn my father back to normal, from a heartless killing machine to normal, or I will kill you with this lightsaber that attracts bugs." And the thing is, it's like even the close-up shots, the detail and the anger in the eyes, you can see it, and I really appreciate that. Even in the shots of where she's like scared to death because bugs are coming towards her, so she does have some insecurities as well as some likes. So I like we're getting more and more about her personality. So the anime's handled that really good. But we also get introduced to the fact that Vegapunk and Dragon met on O'Hara, a young Vegapunk and a younger Vegapunk and a young dragon met on O'Hara, and Dragon's talking about how he knew Professor Clover when he was swarming the seas. But more importantly, the dialogue, and you really need to pay close attention to here, not only the dialogue but also the body language. And this is also when we get introduced to the fact that Dragon started up what became the Revolutionary Army, started up from the Freedom Fighters, when you see Dragon with Ivankov and Kuma, and his conviction about him getting angered about what happened with the O'Hara incident, how Nami's like, "Oh, he's such a passionate fellow. Luffy's dad is such a passionate fellow." Notice how she said Luffy's dad and not Dragon. So that I thought that was kind of interesting. We obviously, the most important thing that really ties into this chapter is like we get introduced to the Iron Giant robot. That I'll get back into that as we go along, because it really ties into the ending of this chapter. So like I said, shout out to the anime and how well they've handled these few episodes, and honestly how well they've handled Egghead Island as a whole. So hopefully keep it up, especially with, as much as I don't care for the fight just because it's based on nostalgia purposes and predictability, Rob Lucci versus Luffy, I know the anime is going to knock it out of the park. That's not something I'm questioning. But so we got the monster tree on the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump, looking based as all hell in their outfits, and obviously I believe it's a nod to the Three Musketeers, especially with Sanji and Luffy. Luffy, by the way, is like he's wearing multiple hats for days. Like he's got like 3 hats, his straw hat underneath, a second hat, and another hat on top with a feather, which I really like actually. And he's also wearing a bandana, so that's pretty cool. Zoro and Sanji, I don't think the Monster Trio have looked as good as they do right now. I don't know if Oda's going to will these outfits into existence, but that's, or if it's going to be part of a future video game. But either way, speaking of the Straw Hats, we actually get the full Straw Hat crew along with a few additions in the colour spread. You got Luffy munching on fries, the Straw Hats paired up, but more importantly, you got Barney, Kuma, and Vegapunk added to the mix. And I feel like this could be Oda setting us up for what the group that's going to Elbaf, which I personally speculate that's probably maybe the direction they head in. As much as Oda wants to tease us with the death of Vegapunk. So we start off with the chapter with St. Marcos Mars unleashing an attack on the barrier or the frontier dome barrier at Labo phase. It looks like he breaks through because he's wandering around all over Labo phase. So he's looking for York. Jinbei sees him, and he's also in the area where Zoro and Lucci were facing off. And Zoro's like, Lucci's still standing despite that final attack. So it looks like Zoro he tries to go back in. As much as I don't care for him, I do have to give him props. Like, he's still standing. He took the attack from Zoro in his condition, but again, he's an awakened Zoan, so. But then you have Sanji on the other line of the Dendenbushi say, hey, have you got him yet? And Jinbei's like, yo, he grabs a hold of Zoro. He's like, yo, you already won, let's go, Zoro. So I like the fact that he confirmed that before he launched Fishman Karate 5000 Brick. So for those having doubts, like, no, it's confirmed. Zoro won, but the attack by Jinbei knocks him out of his awakened hybrid form. He's back at his base, and then all of a sudden, then St. Marcus Mars towers over him, monster-like, and he's like, yo, where's York? So I don't know what they're going to sound like in the anime with the voice acting in these forms, but there's going to be some demonic shit. I'll tell you that right now. Especially with the look that Rob Lucci gives. When the hell has Rob Lucci looked like that ever? But he has no problem spilling the beans about what's going on. Oh, those two, yeah, Rono Zoro and Jinbei, they're part of the Straw Hat crew. They just dipped. They went that way. There's 5 more Straw Hats up above. But before Mars dips, Rob Lucci's like, oh, I have one last thing. My partner should be in the control room where he's badly injured. By the way, it was Sanji that locked him up in that bubble. Rob Lucci is like, oh, please spare him. And Marcus Mars kind of like responds in a cryptic way. He's like, oh, it's hard to single out a lone insect when you're exterminating the hive. It looks like he takes off. Here's the thing, and people are going to say whatever they want about, oh, Rob Lucci's actually showing compassion about his comrade. The thing is, too little too late. It's like the whole situation with Kizaru. He had his chance. You wait till now to do something like this. So, no. Sorry. He still sucks. So, speaking of people that don't suck, the Giants from Elbaf, Dorian Bragi, they reunite with Luffy and they have a pretty good conversation. I'll get back to this in a minute, but a lot of people seem to think the Straw Hats are going to divide and split up again. And Oda pretty much debunked that theory in this chapter with 2 key moments. So first off, Dorian Bragi, they're talking about Luffy's appearance because it matches the god. But then Luffy's like, actually talking logically here. It's like, we can talk later. We don't have time right now. Bragi's like, oh, we know. We talked to Sanji before. So they met up with Sanji, and this is kind of a key detail here. When they meet up with Sanji, he's like, oh, when you see Luffy, tell him we're meeting up on the other end of the island. So why would they say that if they were splitting up? Another thing is, we see how each of the groups are being paired up. Obviously, Usopp and Nami. And by the way, Brook and Lil they aren't highlighted here, but we know that's where they're at. We have Luffy's group, obviously. We have Sanji and Vegapunk. We have Barney's group, and if you remember, Frankie, Atlas, and the Giant from Elbaf, they were also in that area. So, and you also have the Elbaf ship. And if you look at the route where all the arrows point, it goes immediately to the ship of the Giants. But the thing is, like, Nami's group, Nami and Usopp's group are right beside the Sunny, so I'm pretty sure that's going to, and considering the size of that Elbaf ship. I'm pretty sure the Sunny could have bought that ship too. And maybe they use Crypto Burst, or maybe the Iron Giant may have something to do with that. Bragi signals the horn for a retreat. TOPMAN Warcury is like, I don't think so. I'm going to unleash a call of my own. So he unleashes a Conqueror's Hockey Roar, and it's pretty much confirmed what we all could have expected or speculated. Like, the Gorosei are Conqueror's Hockey users. So, because you see the sparks, and immediately they talk like, oh, this is Conqueror's Hockey. To me, and this is like leaping into the best part of the entire chapter for me. First off, this is outrageous. So we see Luffy being affected by this. His body is being stretched inside out. The eyes are bugged out of his head. He loses his sandals. He loses his straw hat, and if you notice, he loses both his scars. Because after we see the impact of the Conqueror's Hockey Roar from TOPMAN Warcury, like I said, we see Marineford getting knocked out, and then Luffy all of a sudden patches up the 2 scars on his body. So that to me is outrageous. It doesn't end there; it gets even crazier. So, speaking of Warcury, he comes back in. He actually tries to attack after a Conqueror's Hockey Roar. So again, that's not a shock. Like, I think that's something we could have assumed anyway, that they were Conqueror's Hockey users. This is Oda telling us something about what's to come. So Warcury comes in. Dory and Bragi block the attack after that, Saturn tries his hand and he spits venom bullets. Luffy points that out to the Giants. And this goes into, in my opinion, probably one of the top 5 craziest Luffy moments in the history of One Piece. I am not kidding. So in one motion, he grabs a hold of a palm tree. He bites the lower end of it to form it into a baseball bat. Then he somehow finds black paint and coats it to make a baseball bat and then I don't know where the hell Luffy pulled out helmet with 56. So number 56, Monkey D. Luffy swings and hits the venom bolts right back at Saturn and Warcury, and boy oh boy, they explode, which even shocks Luffy. Are the anime gonna have fun with this fight when we eventually get to that? Especially what we saw with Luffy versus Kaido. But then even after the explosion, Luffy explains to the Giants they can't die. But there's like, okay, it's fine. There's causing flames throughout the forest fire, so they can use this to escape. And it's important to note, like, they're being blocked by the flames, so they can't go after them. But even though they can regenerate, which isn't a problem, Luffy points that out and said, no matter what I do, they keep coming back. We cut away from there and we go to Nami, who's speaking with Jinbei on the Dendamushi. Jinbei and Zoro are heading their way, so they're joining up with the rendezvous. Like I said, Luffy will be the last to join the crew. So then we cut to Barney, and right in front of them's the ship from Elbaf. But unfortunately, 3 vice admirals are blocking her way. From a character standpoint, I can only see like 3 outcomes here, 3 scenarios. And since we see Sanji immediately running with Vegapunk, I assume Sanji may end up going there to help out Barney. That'd be kind of epic. Or, considering Barney's paired up with Atlas, the giant from Elbaf, and Frankie right now, Frankie could do something. That'd be good too. From a character standpoint, he really needs to do something before this arc wraps up. Like, there's been so much intrigue when it comes to like him respecting Vegapunk, but he really hasn't done a whole lot. He saved Luffy, and other than that, from a character standpoint, like, he got petrified by York, half petrified. Again, like, if Frankie's gonna do something, it's now or never. From a character standpoint, like, he needs to do something. Like I said, either option I'll be fine with. Another option is like Kuma could do something, but I don't know if he's in any condition to do anything to help out Barney right now. Like I said, I have a scenario I'll be fine with. Either Barney steps up or actually finds a way to defeat 3 vice admirals, or Sanji steps in to help her out, or Frankie actually finally steps up from a character standpoint and actually finds it. Or we could get a 3v3. That's a possibility too. But that's not the end of it. Because we see York, because St. Marcus Mars runs into York finally since the last time we saw was last year. And he pretty much asks where the room that displays the monitor that's playing Vegapunk's message. By the way, there is a time frame. I believe Rob Lucci said there's 6 minutes left before this message plays. But York doesn't really give a response because she's terrified. So then we see Kizaru in a marine ship, wallowing in his self-pity, thinking about the life choices he's made. Well, much like Rob Lucci, it's too little too late. Because even if you try to do something now, you've already struck a vital blow on Vegapunk. Whether or not he actually dies or not, we don't know. But if he does die, then Kizaru is a big part of the reason why he dies. So there's no coming back from that. So Kizaru has been briefed on a certain Iron Giant that headed northwest shore here. So I'm pretty sure he's heading to Luffy's location, considering it speaks and it says, "Forgive me, Joyboy," and that's the cliffhanger. The gigantic cliffhanger. There's been subtle hints of the giant awakening. Like I said, I was going to leave what we got introduced to in the anime till here, considering that ties in with the ending of this chapter. So we got recently introduced to this Iron Giant and the lore of what it did. At least 200 years ago, it stormed the land of Merajoa and attacked. Now, what's interesting here is this Iron Giant says, "Forgive me, Joyboy," which is interesting because the attack on Merajoa happened 200 years ago. And Joyboy was around 900 years ago. He did something 800 years ago. That may be in the year of the Void Century, considering that Nefertari D. Lily also committed a crime 800 years ago, and she was the ruler of Alabasta back then. She vanished from the history books, never to be seen again. She also committed a crime according to Emu. Then we have Lady Toki Amatsuki, or Lady Toki Kazuki, who came from Wano 800 years in the past, 20 years ago in the Odin flashback. So there's all these connections leading to the Void Century 800 years ago, but Joyboy was around 100 years before then. So that's going to be very epic and telling. And the fact that this giant mecha knows Joyboy, but we don't know what he's apologizing for. But then again, Zunisha also committed a crime and was well instrumental in seeing the resurrection of Joyboy in the form of Luffy going in Gear 5th. So this Iron Giant's heading to help out Luffy. I've been stating this. It may be a way that the Straw Hats escape. Maybe he launches Luffy into the Sunny. I don't know. That'd be kind of hilarious. You also got the Giants from Melbath, which I feel like what I said is all along is like they're going to sacrifice themselves to make sure the Straw Hats escape and make it to Elbaf. Maybe on the Elbaf ship. We don't know what's going to happen to that. If they don't, they're leaving on the Sunny, guaranteed. And the thing is, with most of the crew paired up next to the Sunny, we got Nami and Usopp's group. We got Brook Lilth there. I don't think we saw Rob. We haven't seen Robin in a few chapters, but I'm pretty sure she's either there or she's on board the Sunny. Obviously, they're not going to leave her there. Chopper's. We didn't see Chopper, but we know he's with Nami's group as well. So there's a lot of characters that need to rendezvous. Zoro and Jinbei obviously have to jump on board. Sanji and Luffy will be the last, like I mentioned before. Luffy being the final crew member. Like I said, like the Oda debunking the theory that the Straw Hats are separating, much like they did back on Whole Cake Island and Wano. No, because that's going to push the story. That makes no sense because you're going to push the story back even further. And also, Nami's log post was mentioned by Vegapunk, like it's already pointing in the direction of Elbaf. So even if by the off chance they do separate, they're still heading to the same destination. So it makes no sense. But yeah, Nami's log post points in the direction of Elbaf. Most of the crew Luffy's been notified, like, okay, by Sanji, like, we're meeting. Oda's not going to have that in if they're not going to leave as a whole crew. So obviously Oda adds some intrigue with Barney having her path to escaping and getting cut off by the Vice Admirals, but with Sanji running, with Frankie possibly there, or with Barney actually turning up and actually doing something epic on her own, which would be perfect considering how, like I said before, how Barney has been handled as a character has been perfect. Either one of those options I'll be fine with. Kuma is a question mark considering I don't know. That color spread may be foreshadowing the group that's heading to Elbaf, like I said all along, and with St. Marcus Mars on the hunt for the monitor to destroy it before Vegapunk can display the message to the world. So it's either we get that message heard and the rest of the world hears it as well, or and there's ground shaking truth that he knows that he's about ready to spill to everyone on the verge of death, or he's going to survive and it's just a red herring and we're going to find out about it anyway. It's one of those two options. So when Oda decides to come back, I'm pretty sure it's going to be an indicator of what happens to the Gorosei following this, because like I said, Oda decides to have the Gorosei, all 5 of them, team up now instead of when Saturn was first introduced to be on board the marine ship along with Kizaru, and especially with this chapter with Warcury unleashing a Conqueror's Haki roar. Obviously, again, we knew that we had to have some idea that the Conqueror's Haki uses, but obviously the Conqueror's Haki users, they may be advanced Conqueror's Haki users. I won't be shocked, but if they're not, then what does that say about Emu? Which this pretty much guarantees. Like, Emu is an advanced Conqueror's Haki user, no doubt about it. Like, after what we've seen here, like, there's no way. Like, I don't know what this says about the rest of the Holy Knights. You remember the 9 Holy Knights that were introduced after the Reverie? Yeah. That's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Like the review if you did. A thumbs up, I appreciate that. Subscribe to for more One Piece. I appreciate all you guys' support. Catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.